What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Apogee Fitness Podcast, coming to you from the Apogee Therapy Center recording studio. My name is David Carter.
And I am Zach Galloway.
Zachary, what's up, dude?
How's it going?
Well, I knew we were going to get you on this podcast somehow or another, and I'm
not elite enough to be on the other side of the microphone.
I don't know about that. So occasionally Kevin gets busy. You know, he's an avid photographer and is frequently out of town. And tonight is one of those nights. So last time, my co-host that I brought in was amazing and catch kilos.
Hopefully, don't let anyone down on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So funny story, Zach and I are both from Michigan, believe it or not. But we didn't, and we kind of ran in the same circles for a little bit. But
and we've probably crossed paths multiple times, just never knew it.
And we just never knew it until we actually officially met here in South Carolina, of all places.
Small world.
Small world,
for sure.
So we both are Grand Valley State University alum, and I think your freshman year we figured out was my senior year. Is that correct? Did you start in 2000? Yeah, so that would have been my senior year.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, dude, for real. So, so we connected here in South Carolina through CrossFit, just like a lot of these guests that are on this podcast, and we've been wanting to kind of do one together for a while, so it kind of worked out. So, yeah, man, thanks for coming over today and doing this with me.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
All right, cool. Today, so me and this guest have been texting back and forth, I feel like, for a year. I first heard about Steph Simmons, I believe it was probably last year at Crash Crucible, and I was pretty impressed with her performance, and we had a lot of mutual friends, so I knew we had to get her on. A couple accolades that Zachary found: 2-time Mid-Atlantic team, 6-time pro team out of events such as like Wadapalooza, Granite Games, and the MAC. And as of this year, 1-time team CrossFit Games Athlete. So yeah, man, Steph Simmons, what's up?
Hey guys, I'm super excited to be on the podcast today. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you been up to today?
A few clients this morning, been out to the farm with Matt, so it's been an eventful day.
Very cool. So Steph, is this your first podcast interview?
This is. It's going to be fun. See what comes out.
Yeah, I feel very much a senior today. You know, we were talking about ages before we got on the podcast, and I am 5 years, both of your senior, and plus, this is both your first times. Well, actually, Zach, you started hosting a podcast.
We haven't produced one yet, but we still have to listen to it and make sure everything's good. It's just going to be really weird listening to yourself.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing, is hearing yourself on some headphones.
And even as it produces and you play it through whatever audio you're listening through, it's completely different than that too.
Yeah. Well,
do I really sound like that?
I'm glad that we could break you in today, Steph, on the podcast airwaves. So just like a lot of the podcasts that we like to do, our audience kind of likes to get to know our guest a little bit more on a personal level. So Steph, tell us a little bit about your upbringing, where you're from, where you were raised. What kind of family life you had growing up, and was sports always a big part of your life?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Hickory, North Carolina. I've got 2 brothers, Rob and Chuck, and there were like 6 other boys that lived on the street. And so I was very much a tomboy growing up. We played all the sports, whatever season it was. We played it in the backyard between soccer and football, wiffle ball in the backyard. So lots of sports growing up. I did gymnastics first, and then I transitioned into team sports. In high school, I played volleyball and basketball and softball, and I think I played travel softball from like age 10 all the way through college. So I went to college at Wingate University, which is right outside of Charlotte on 74, and I played softball there, Division II softball. I got a bachelor's in biology. And after that, I got into CrossFit.
Awesome. All right, so
that's quite a bit.
What about your childhood kind of made you gravitate towards softball and ultimately go into college for playing that sport?
Probably my dad was really involved with softball growing up. He was my coach from like the start of it. I played on the Hit and Run, which was a local travel team where I made a lot of good friends, and stuck with those friends all the way through high school. And we traveled around kind of cities close to Hickory. And then as we got older, we traveled a little bit further away. My dad was pretty much my coach and really got me into the sports aspect, team sports aspect, and helped develop that side of my personality through over the years. So we started out with the Hit and Run. Once I think it was like 16 years old, I transitioned to the Lady Blues, which is a little bit a level up in terms of travel softball. And we stopped traveling from like Hickory to Charlotte, and we started traveling from like Hickory to Florida and Hickory to Colorado and Hickory to Texas. And so it was like a big recruiting process to go to these large scale tournaments and play really good people throughout the nation.
That's awesome. So how did you land going to Wingate?
Well, I was talking to a couple different colleges, and Wingate really seemed to fit me the best out of all the ones I was talking to. It was close to home, which like 2 hours, so close enough to be, I could drive home in a day, but far enough away that I also had to make a trip of it. So it was a good experience there. But I just really got along well with the incoming class. I think there were 5 freshmen the year I came in. And I just really liked Wingate and the atmosphere there.
So, all right. Hickory, North Carolina. North Carolina is a big state. I just went from Greenville, South Carolina to Greenville, North Carolina last weekend to visit some friends. And I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And you don't have kids yet. You're not married.
Yes.
And what you see in the movies where the kids sitting in the back seat and they're like, "Are we there yet?" Like that does happen constantly. But my son, my 4-year-old, he's like, "Are we in North Carolina yet?" And we were in North Carolina within 30 minutes because we live in Spartanburg County. And but then it was like another 4.5 hours of driving through North Carolina to get to Greenville, North Carolina. So he was like, "I can't stand North Carolina. It's the worst state ever." But
it's so long.
It's very long. So where in North Carolina exactly is Hickory, North Carolina?
Hickory's like in between Charlotte and the mountains. So it's like an hour north-ish of Charlotte, and then if you continue on an hour north of that, you're in the mountains.
Okay, so it'd be more like West Carolina.
Western Carolina,
Boone,
yeah.
by chance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Close to Boone.
All right, cool.
Boone was where we went to the mountains whenever we went.
Okay, and is Wingate, I don't know if I'm totally off on this, but was that an all-girls university, or is that completely off?
Nope, not all girls. It started out as like a Baptist university.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
But definitely not Baptist complete anymore.
Okay.
It's transitioned a lot out of that. But
Wingate
is like 70 to 80% athletes.
Okay, so it's very much a college university.
Yeah, like
there's nothing else there. Wingate makes up the town.
Or a college university, a
that's
sports
how Grand
university.
Valley was for their, at least Allendale campus. There was a lot of athletes there, but then more graduate the way you moved out from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Is Wingate D2?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Grand Valley's D2 as well. And Zach played football over at Grand Valley. What is Grand Valley? The most winningest football program ever, right?
Ooh, ever? I know that North Dakota State's up there.
In the NCAA?
But yes, Grand Valley's up there for sure, especially in the early 2000s.
Yeah. Cool facts. We're going to step away from Steph here. Brian Kelly was, that's where he got his start as a football coach at Grand Valley State University back in the 90s, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
The Notre Dame football coach. All right, back to Steph.
We interrupt this
for a little plug for our alma mater. All right, cool. So what position did you play in softball?
I mean, if you could see me, I'd normally make you guess because nobody ever guesses the first time, but I was a catcher. I was really little for a catcher. I also played second base and all of the outfield. So moved around a lot. But
that's cool. Well, it sounds like catcher was your favorite, though.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool.
I like outsmarting people and calling pitches, so that was always really rewarding for me to do.
Awesome. And
I just don't know enough about the sport other than it's extremely hard to get recruited in. And
yeah, my wife played college softball too, so I know all
nice.
about that softball world. You said you had two brothers. Are you the oldest, or in the middle, or the youngest? And was there a rivalry between the three of you to make you so competitive?
Oh my gosh, yes, there's definitely a rivalry. I am the oldest, and then my brother Rob is the middle child. He's like 15 months younger than me. And then my brother Chuck is 16 months younger than Rob.
Oh,
So we
wow.
are all really close. We're still close to this day. And yeah, always playing sports, always competing against each other, getting into fights, picking apart fights, all that kind of stuff. So,
That's awesome.
but we're good friends now. And I really wish they lived closer, but one's in Hickory and one's in Winston-Salem. So
All right. And
close enough.
where are you currently?
I'm in Wilmington,
All
North
right.
Carolina.
So how'd you get from Wingate to Wilmington, North Carolina?
I came down to Wilmington for grad school. So I actually have a master's in marine biology from UNC Wilmington. And I love the beach. So I found every opportunity I could to stay down here. And I think I've been here like 7 years now or something like that. So maybe only 6. I don't know. But it's a cool town.
All right, cool. Zach, you have any questions?
No.
Okay,
Not on
I
that.
do.
I mean,
So we graduate from Wingate. You played softball at a high level there. Was there a period between graduating from college and finding CrossFit where fitness was kind of put on the back burner, or did you jump right into CrossFit right after softball? How did that marriage happen?
So I guess you've kind of picked up. I'm a little bit of a nerd. I've got the bio and the marine bio degrees. So one of the summers I was at Wingate, I got a summer research grant to study stink bugs of all things.
Oh, wow.
It was really nerdy. I would never do it again, but got me some summer money, got to keep me at college for the summer, which was a really cool experience. But my advisor was into CrossFit, Dr. Skako. And so she took me to a CrossFit class in Monroe. And that was like my first introduction to it. And then I worked with a personal trainer, Coach Kelly, and he trained me for sports specific CrossFit-y type training. So that was like my original introduction. But after I graduated, I really wanted something similar to like the intensity that was brought in group training with the team. And so I started at CrossFit Hickory because I moved back home after graduation for a year. So I lived at home for a year, went to CrossFit Hickory with my friend Alex, and yeah, stuck around there. CrossFit Hickory had some really good coaches. Coach Kent, Greg, who else was there? There's a bunch of good coaches that were really kind of like catapulted me into the CrossFit scene. I also met one of my really good friends, Carrie Schaefer, who's now Carrie Billington, and her and I hit it off on the competitive side of things. So I've done so many events with her and my other friend, Stevie Dellinger. We're actually getting ready to take on the Wadapalooza qualifiers. I think in November is when they start. So really pumped for that this year.
That's awesome.
yeah, with that like that CrossFit kind of journey, when was you say that you finally like tasted the Kool-Aid, or you were like, yeah, I can go after this. This is something I really want to pursue?
I think I just really enjoyed how CrossFit was. So I never got, like, we did competitions, man, since probably the first or second year I was in, but was never like super serious about it. Didn't consider myself really good at it for a long time, probably until like maybe 2 years ago. I was like, oh, okay, like we're moving on up in this world here. But yeah, I think my first competition was at Iron Forged Athletics, doing the Iron Clash, and I did scaled, and like I remember watching some of the girls do super heavy weights for snatches, and I was struggling to snatch like a 55-pound barbell and thinking, oh my gosh, like what did I get myself into? But I'm really glad I did.
Yeah, the journey's definitely humbling when you look back at like where everyone started.
Yeah, it is. Every time I think back, and I'm still between you and Zach, I'm nothing to speak of. For as long as I've been doing CrossFit, I should be much better. But yeah, when you think back at your first workout, and I can specifically remember my first workout. It was 2000. I think it was probably 2011 or 12. I was in grad school, and there was this kid who was a year ahead of me in grad school who all of a sudden just started getting super shredded. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm doing this thing called CrossFit. And I was like, I had known what CrossFit was because I had been on CrossFit.com, but I had never been to a gym, so I went there with him. And actually, the guy that owned that gym, CrossFit 810, he was a regionals athlete, and he was on the CrossFit seminar team, which was really cool. But I remember the first workout being 21-15-9, which I thought was a super weird rep scheme, and it being squat cleans and handstand push-ups. And I had never done handstand push-ups. I had never even been I couldn't even do a cartwheel. Like, that was a thing for, like, I'd always been terrified of, like, doing anything on my hands. I don't know why. Even when I was a kid, I never did cartwheels. So just the thought of doing a handstand push-up was, like, way beyond me. And I remember thinking, man, this is going to take forever. And then, like, half the class was done within, like, 5 minutes or whatever. And I was like, this is unbelievable. I'm sure you guys had similar experiences the first time walking into the gym.
God, I don't even remember the first workout that I did. I just remember being really bad at snatches to start.
Yeah.
Mine was Jackie, and I forever hate that workout because of that guy. I had to break the empty barbell thrusters into like 7 sets. I was like, this is embarrassing.
Yeah. I remember watching that. There's a pretty famous video of Dan Bailey doing that one and just him rocking it out. Cool. All right, so you said you started doing some competitions, and really within like the last 2 years, you feel like you were able to bring it to the next level. What made you feel that way? Like, did you do a competition and win big, or did you? How did you realize that? Okay, I'm kind of way better at this, and I'm going all in.
God, maybe it wasn't 2 years. I forget. It was the year we went to the Granite Games. I was competing with Stevie and Carrie, and maybe that was 2017. So, okay, like 4 years. But we had gone to Wadapalooza, the three of us, and we signed up as intermediate because we had never been before. And based off of like what they tell you on their guidelines, we were like, all right, well, we're an intermediate team. This is going to be great. And we get down there and we end up winning it. And we got a lot of like pushback because people are like, oh, you guys should have gone RX, which we probably should have, but we didn't know. And so that was a cool experience. But after that, we ended up going to the Granite Games, and we like skipped the whole RX group and we went pro. And I remember being in like the warm up area and seeing people like Jessica Griffith and Brooke Wells, and there's Scott Panchek. I'm like, whoa. We're in with the big dogs. And I think one of our first workouts was like some triathlon type deal where we had to swim and then run. And Stevie, Carrie, and I were newbies and we didn't know. So we lined up in the front of the swim pack, like right in the middle, which was an awful place for a triathlon start for the swim. And I just remember vividly getting kicked in the face and like my goggles went sideways. And that swim, needless to say, was awful, like completely awful for the rest of whatever it took us, 8-10 minutes. But when I got out of the water, I remember seeing Jessica Griffith again. And then we start running a little bit and there's Brooke Wells. And I'm like, wow, we're actually doing good because Stevie and Carrie got out of the water ahead of me. And so I think at that point, after I didn't like that event. So after I calmed down a little bit, we kind of looked at where we were at on the leaderboard and we're like, all right, we can kind of do this. Let's hang with them. So it was fun. But then the big weights came out and we weren't strong at that point and kind of fell off the leaderboard, but it was fun.
That's cool. So how did you make your way from Hickory to being a permanent resident in Wilmington? I know you said you went to grad school there. Did you move back to Hickory after undergrad and then move to Wilmington? Okay, so after grad school you stayed there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually, I was working out I was training out of CrossFit Wilmington at the time. And I was just talking to everybody in the gym. Hey, I'm graduating. I need a job. And I connected with Barbara Heath, who gave me a job doing evaluation work. So I worked for her for 2 years, and that kept me in Wilmington with a full-time job. We did grant evaluation work, so that's what kept me in Wilmington.
What does that mean? What do you mean evaluation work?
So like if you get a grant to research jellyfish,
Mm-hmm.
then and the National Science Foundation pays for this big grant. We would evaluate how the grant is progressing, if they're meeting metrics, if they're achieving outcomes and goals, and then we would report that back to the funding agency. So it's a lot of like check the box kind of work. So,
Oh wow, so you were somebody's best friend or like worst
oh
enemy.
man, everybody would like clam up when I would hop on a Zoom call or come in the room, and I'm like, I'm friendly, I swear. But
That's cool.
yeah, so it was an interesting job, very specific job. But I've worked on and off for Barbara over the past 5 or 6 years, and it's been a good job for me.
Okay, so that's more of a part-time thing. So what are you doing currently outside of CrossFit for work and outside of the grant thing?
So the grant stuff is all soft money, so it's usually contract work.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrapped up a 2-year grant in May of this year, and since then I've just been doing personal training. I also teach biology labs at University of North Carolina, Wilmington.
Oh wow.
So I'm hired by semester. So like normally in the fall I'll teach general cell biology, and then in the spring I'll teach some upper level elective.
Uh-huh.
So I've done like genetics and animal physiology and anatomy and physiology. So normally I'd be teaching right now, but I took the semester off to plan a wedding because that
Kind
takes
of
a
a big
lot of
deal.
work.
Yeah.
I'm still
Yeah.
interested, like with the whole marine biology. Like, what led you down that path? Like, what did you want to do with that?
Well, I'm very goal driven as an individual. And when I was 12 years old, my family and I went on a vacation to Cozumel, Mexico, and we went scuba diving. My parents scuba dived a lot when we were kids, and they finally took us. And I just remember getting under the water and like seeing this big coral reef with all these beautiful, like colorful fish, and thinking, "Ooh, this is a whole new world down here." And so I decided then that I wanted to be a marine biologist before I knew that like there's not many jobs. And so that was always in my head. And then I, got into the science realm and decided there became an opportunity to do a study at UNC Wilmington. One of the professors reached out to me, and so I took it, and that's how I got the master's degree there. And hopefully down the road I can put it to good use, but for right now I'm just using it to teach biology labs.
That's really cool.
That's awesome. So what's it like teaching at the university? Do you feel is it hard being a 30-year-old and teaching 20-something-year-olds and like 18, 19-year-olds?
Yeah. Man, so I started teaching as a graduate TA. So I'm only teaching labs, not the lecture.
Uh-huh.
But so I've been at this for like 6 years now. And so I probably was started when I was 24-ish when I started. And woo, some of those kids would give you some pushback, and they didn't want to respect you a lot, but you just kind of have to lay down the law and be tough at the start of the semester and then become their friend later. But I don't know, it's been interesting. I've gone through 2 hurricanes and a pandemic teaching at this university. So I've really only been in person for maybe like 7 semesters. We've done online, we've shifted into trailers. It's been weird. So I haven't had a normal semester in a while, and this would have been the first normal semester. They finally went back in person. But it's been online lately, and it's not been fun.
I can't imagine being a student right now.
No. I
can't imagine.
All right, so you have a pretty high level education. I was in school forever. I'm a physical therapist, so I have the 3-year doctoral degree as well.
That's a lot of school too.
It's a lot, man, and I still get the school nightmares. I don't know if you guys get this, but this happens, I would say, at least a couple times a year. And I don't usually, I get some pretty vivid dreams, but this is one that I remember that I repeatedly have. Okay, here it is. There's 2 of them. One of them is I'm back in college, and I guess I had signed up for a class that I didn't realize I had signed up for, and I didn't go the entire semester. And I get my report card back, and my GPA is tanked because I got a 0 in that class and never went.
Sounds like a few of my students.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, that did happen a few times in undergrad where I didn't go, but no, not to that extent. And then the other one is I will have like this dream where I have this huge semester project, and I don't do a thing for it until like the night before, and I'm cramming and it doesn't get done, and then again, like I failed the class. So obviously this fear of failure is still a thing in my life. But I think, for people who do push themselves to a certain degree in life, I think that a fear of failing is a valid reason for why you keep pushing yourself. I know that's probably one of the reasons why you keep pushing yourself, not only in your profession, but also in the sports realm, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. I think that when people ask you what's your biggest fear, like that's it. The fear of failing in anything. I don't like failing, period. So
yeah. I think when people admit that, then they have a little bit more freedom in what they're doing too. I've definitely learned over the last 35 years that you're not always going to win, and failing are definitely good life lessons. And if you don't fail at all, you'll never progress. So I think failing is a good thing to do every once in a while, but definitely still a fear of mine.
Oh, yeah. And hopefully you learn from it.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. Teaches you a lot of good life lessons if you learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Life lessons are the best teachers.
for sure. And it makes you work so much harder. For like example, what was it? When did the handstand ramps come out? When was that like introduced? In 2000?
I feel like it's been a couple years, but I couldn't tell you a date. Maybe
That was
27.
2018.
Okay,
2018. That was the second regional. And we practiced and practiced and practiced leading up to the regional because I think we were the third weekend to compete, so we had some time. And like I got good at it. I was excited, and I remember in the warm-up area at the regional, like they had 2 ramps set up, and I went up the stairs, down the ramp, up the ramp, down the stairs a couple times, like unbroken, no big deal. And we get out onto the competition floor, and like I was pumped for this event, no problem, we've got it. And I get over the first ramp, okay, come down, shake it out, get back up, go up the ramp, and I go down the stairs. And at that point, you had to go like maybe another 2 to 3 feet to like clear a line to complete the rep. And I got to the last stair and my arm buckles and I fall. I'm like, all right, stay calm. You can do this. No big deal. Go back, fail again and again and again for like 5 whole minutes. And there's a picture that was taken, and my teammate Jay-Z, I laugh about this now, but at the time it was really rough. But Jay-Z's got like his head on the pylon at the finish line, just like staring at me with the look of like such disappointment. It's like, oh no, that was our shot in event 1 and we're failing. And so
no.
I had like a big mental setback from that, like with handstand stuff and with the ramps specifically for like 6 to 8 months until we went to Wadapalooza and it came out again. And my teammate Hannah, who's actually going to be in my wedding, she's one of my really good friends. Hannah had trained alongside me at Reignited, and we practiced the ramp and good. But we got out to that Wadapalooza floor, and I took like a solid minute after doing some double unders before going up and over the ramp. And I'd never seen someone so excited for another person. She like ran over and gave me the biggest hug because she knew about like this big challenge. Like that was a huge hurdle in my life. And to overcome it, it was really cool to have her share that moment with me. But definitely a failure that was turned into a positive.
Yep. That's a good friend right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Easily.
You need hype people like that.
Hype people are the most important people.
You gotta have them in your life. You have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we're going to take a break to thank our sponsors for today's episode. We're going to start off with CrossFit Greer. If you're living in the Greer area and are interested in getting started in CrossFit, go ahead and look up CrossFit Greer. Jen and Reagan Green are the owners there. If you mention the Apogee Podcast to them, they will give you 10% off your first month's membership fees.
I would also like to thank Blitz Belts and Chris Kane for their continued support of the show. So be sure to use their 15% off coupon code at checkout. That's Apogee, all caps. That gets you, the listener, 15% off at checkout at Blitz Belts on your custom order. I want to thank Goat Tape for being our new sponsor. Goat Tape has committed its brand to providing the best in athletic tape. They are the standard for CrossFit tape, scary sticky. Now they are providing the best in KT tape. So at checkout, be sure to get your 25% off your wholesale purchase. Use the coupon code Apogee at checkout.
Finally, if you guys would like to become an invested friend of the show and are interested in supporting the show directly, go to anchor.fm/Apogee Podcast and click on the support tab. We love bringing you guys awesome content each week, so be sure to subscribe to the podcast, drop a review, and let us know how we're doing. All right, so the most interesting thing not the most interesting thing, but one of the interesting things I picked up from our conversation so far is team. You're always mentioning being on a team. Have you ever done anything individual, and are you currently is the team that you have now, have you guys been a team throughout this whole process? Or talk about your CrossFit competitions and your teams, and if you've ever done individual.
So I've done a handful of individual events, like less than 5. We throw the Reignited Games, a local comp here at my gym, and I've done that individually twice. I did Greenville Games individually. That was at Amy's gym. That was in 2019. And I did Crash individually.
Right,
and that's the last one I've done individually. I'm not necessarily against competing individually. I just think that I'm better as a teammate. I work really hard for other people, and when I get on my own, I'm like, well, all right, you sucked at that one. Let's move on to the next event. But like for a teammate, I will not let you down type deal. So I prefer a team, but yeah, maybe one day I'll move into that individual space. I don't know.
For sure. So with the Wadapalooza, talk about all the teams that you've been on so far, because there's so many different team makeups. Like before it was 6 people, then it was, at some of these events like Wadapalooza, it's 3 people. CrossFit Games now is 4 people. What type of team do you prefer? And also, are any of your current teammates, have they been teammates of yours throughout the past couple of years?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know that I really prefer a specific style of team, like 3-person all female or 2 and 2. I think it's more about like who I'm competing with. My teammates now, or for the games, we had Bryn and Ryan and Quinn, and I had only competed with Ryan before. I had never competed with Bryn. And Quinn just moved to Wilmington in the fall of last year, so we had never competed together before, really until we stepped on the floor for quarterfinals. So, we are all still currently training together. We all do the Proven program with Tia, and we probably train together 3 days a week, not like as a group of 4, but partnered up at different points of the day. Brian works a full-time job, so does Quinn. And then Bryn and I coach a lot of different random hours. So we try to pair up and train together as much as possible, but it's like rare that the 4 of us all go at the same time.
What did you think about the format this year of turning it back into like the Affiliate Cup rather than having super teams?
I loved it. I got so excited when I heard that announcement. I just felt like it's cool to have an affiliate team, right? It shows off like the impact and the power of a community. And the Reignited community that I'm at now, CrossFit Reignited, is just really powerful. I moved to this gym in 2017 to be on their regional team. And since then, there's just been so many different competitors that have come in and out of the gym. And there's always like a really good group to train with. And it kind of changes from year to year, but the gym just like is a magnet for good competitors, and it makes it more fun to train, and it really gives you a good push in the gym, especially on the days when you just feel like you don't have it. And so it kind of brings that motivation factor for me.
Cool.
I think she hit it on the head right there. It's fun when you have people around you they're suffering with. Like when you're by yourself, sometimes you have that little feel sorry for yourself moment. But when you're out there having fun, it just doesn't matter how bad it hurts. You're there.
It's very easy to quit when you're by yourself. I've said this before on the podcast. I'll never get a PR in my garage ever.
No.
No, that's very cool. You came from a similar gym in Grand Rapids, Zach. You went to 8th Day, and 8th Day was a games team, CrossFit Games team this year.
Yeah, as I was creeping on Steph's Instagram, there's a picture of them doing the worm, and 8th Day's behind them.
Oh, yeah?
They were cool. They were so fun to hang out with in the warm-up area.
Yeah, I think it was super cool to see them there. I think it's just cool how tight-knit the CrossFit, like, just the community has become, and I feel like now with more and more people up and coming, kind of like some of the older people are kind of phasing out a little bit. It's cool to see like familiar faces that you've worked out with in the past or that you know personally there on the games floor, which is really, really cool to see.
Well, from like someone that's in the community, you understand the amount of work that was put into it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see these athletes out there, they're like, oh, you guys took like 20th at the games. Like you don't understand what it took to get there, and it's just impressive to see that pay off for
Right.
people that are in your circle.
For sure.
Yeah. And it was really cool to see all the North and South Carolina athletes that made it this year.
There's so many good people coming out of this region. And there's going to, I think there's going to be more people next year. There's a lot of people coming up that are they're so good. A lot of people that even in our hometown here in Greenville and Spartanburg that are just like made leaps and bounds within the last year. I'm excited to see some of them show off what they've been working on at Crucible this year.
And I think you have a couple big hubs. Like it sounds like Wilmington in that area has a huge like metro of good CrossFit athletes, and you would come to Greenville and then like Atlanta. So this region around here just is a magnet for a lot of people, and it's showing on your end as well that multiple appearances.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it seems that way too with most people geographically went to semifinals close to where they live just because it's a little bit easier to travel, it seems like. So that means for North and South Carolina athletes, like you're probably going to the MAC, and man, the MAC was stacked.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, that was
crap.
A game in itself.
I really loved watching all of the semifinal events. At least I can't say I watched all of them. I watched all the North America ones.
Yeah.
But I would say the MAC was the most exciting one. That and maybe West Coast. But talk a little bit about being in that environment. Compare it to what it was like being in the old school regionals environment. And, yeah, just talk about your experience.
I think it was pretty similar, actually, because we were inside with the MAC, so it had the same, like, arena feel. But with way more competitors this time, it felt like. Between the individual field and the teams that were there, it was just a who's who of CrossFit, it felt like. And the workouts were challenging. The MAC staff was really, really welcoming. Like, we got a tour of the whole place when we signed in, and that was neat. And I thought that their coverage was great. They didn't just harp on one team, and they showed the field. And I mean, the MAC put on a really class act, and we were happy to be a part of it.
Very cool.
That's a game changer when you go there, have fun. And it's like, I had a question about like the workouts, and you and I may have talked about this previously, but you've been to regionals, you've seen that scene, and that's at a time where all the regional workouts were the same. Now, do you think with different teams going to different sanctionals, all the workout and programmer is different, does that lead for a different impression when you get to the games? Like, you don't know what to expect out of any team?
Yeah, it was kind of hard to follow which teams were doing what and what semifinals they came from and like what their strengths and weaknesses were. You couldn't really figure it out. But I think, didn't they have like the lifting event was similar across all semifinals? Or was that just like the MAC and Granite Games? And because we had snatches.
Yeah, I think the snatch was pretty similar across the board for every semifinal. I know that CrossFit Inc. Wanted there to be some sort of similarity between at least a couple of the workouts, and I know the snatch was one of that.
The West Coast is the only one I can think of that didn't do like a max snatch. They did that ladder.
Yeah, but no, I love watching a good snatch event. So I'm sure that's improved a little bit for you. The thing I like about the snatch is I think it's probably the most athletic lift in in Olympic lifting.
And satisfying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
yeah, if it can float up there and you catch it right, it is probably one of the most satisfying things.
I don't catch it very heavy compared to some of these other athletes.
Yeah.
So I'm happy just to catch it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the weight.
All right, so talk about going to Madison for the first time and doing the CrossFit Games. Talk about the atmosphere, and talk about. Well, I'll get to this next part after that. Talk about going to Madison first.
Oh, Madison was incredible. The whole experience was one for the memory books. When we got there, I think check-in was the first thing we did in the Noble like locker room, and that's, I'm sure you've seen pictures of it on social media, but wow, they really did it up. We had like our own lockers with a uniform laid out, different shoes to try on, bags, like one of each type of like sweatshirt, sweatpants, shirt, pants, shorts, all of it. So a lady walked you through all of the clothing and apparel and stuff that they were giving you, and you made sure it fits. And they had tailors on site if it didn't, so they could remake it to make sure that you were comfortable and ready to perform in their stuff.
Oh wow!
It was wild. Like, I think we walked home with 10 pairs of shoes. It was nuts. So much stuff. So that alone was really cool, and to go through that experience. But then just competing for 4 days straight. I know when they announced the cuts, our team was really worried. I was a little bit annoyed because I'm like, come on, we made it this far, don't do cuts. But our goal was really, because we basically came in last, right? Like, we squeaked in with the failed drug tests that happened at the MAC. And so coming in last, we had no expectations for the weekend other than like survive the cuts. And so after the first day, we did fairly well again on the swim and kayak event. Bryn wasn't so comfortable in the water, but she made up a ton of time on the kayak, which put our guys in a really good position to bring it home. And I think we took like 11th in that workout. So it set us up really well for day one. And we had another good workout, I think on the field after that. And so after day one, I think we were around 10th or 12th or something like that, and had another one of those feelings of like, oh, okay, we belong here. This is cool. And so after that, like, we just took one workout at a time, and we rode that like anxiety roller coaster of like, all right, get ready for the workout. We're at, getting anxious about the workout that we don't know what we're doing. And then, okay, warm up for the workout, and then do the workout, really anxious and excited and all the emotions, and then cool down and hang out and wait 2 hours and then do it again. And it was just up and down all weekend. And I really hate that at the time, but man, I love that like emotional roller coaster of competing.
That's cool. All right. What do you think it's going to take for somebody to dethrone Mayhem?
Well,
other than Rich stepping down, which he says this year is going to be his last year, I think. But other than that, what do you think makes them so good, other than having Rich Froning on their team?
Okay, well, he's amazing.
Yeah.
And so are all the girls and the guys that are on their team. Like, Andrea can, I think, what did she do? She front squatted 300 for like reps the other day, and I'm like, oh, cool. That's you're really strong.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're kind of a super team, right? Like, people move to Mayhem to be on their team. So it would take another team like that to occur to beat them, but they're so good. They don't even look phased at the end of a workout. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah, I feel like there was a couple teams that gave them a run for the money in certain events, especially, what was that one event with the
was it the pegboard?
No, it was handstand walks and the thrusters, right?
Oh yeah.
At the games?
The wall walks.
Yeah, the wall walks and the thrusters.
Yeah, that was an exciting event.
That was fun. It was kind of cool to see the wall walks show back up, even though like when they came out in the open, I was so annoyed. I'm like, this movement sucks. Why is this in this? This is like how I teach people to do handstand walks.
Right.
But so it was hard in the open, but for whatever reason, I guess our bodies adapted really quickly. And by the games, they were not easy, but way easier than when we had a ton of them in the open. But that event was fun. I really liked that one with the heavy thruster. Quinn and I partnered up for that, and we weren't going against Rich, but it was his partner and Taylor, I think, and it was them, another team, and us for the first round. And we were pretty neck and neck with them. We were looking down the lane and like, oh, wow, cool, we're doing great.
I remember watching that one.
Now, is the electricity in the Coliseum technically, is that what everyone hypes it up to be, like when it's at the finish line like that?
Yeah, it was really cool. The energy in that whole area is just amazing. And it was also really hot in there. Like, for whatever reason, it was super humid on the floor. It was cold everywhere else, but on the floor, it was super hot and humid. And it made those wall walks really sweaty and really difficult. Like, everybody was sliding all over the place. There was chalk everywhere.
Oh, yeah. I remember specifically seeing all that chalk on the floor.
It was wild. But the energy in that area.
Yeah, the coach's nightmare.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I think it's awesome that you had that experience. Do you think you guys are going to try to bring it back for next year?
Definitely, yeah.
Same team, same group and everything?
Yeah.
Cool.
We found some holes, obviously. So we will fix those holes and try to get a little bit better for next year and do it again.
So at what point during the season, I guess maybe right after the Open, at what point do you guys start training more consistently together?
That's a good question. We didn't really start training together until after the MAC. I mean, like, we trained maybe on Saturdays and maybe on Wednesdays together before the MAC. And then after that, we got serious. We were all at that point following Invictus. So we hired Tino from Invictus to write us some team programming. And because we were all in uncharted territory, nobody knew how to train for the games. All of us, our first time. And so he really guided us through that process and got us prepared. So I think once Open is done this year, we'll really kick it into high gear with doing more team and synchro stuff again. But in the off season, we'll try to get together on Saturdays and do team stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now, how did you guys switch from Invictus to Proven? And is that tailored specifically? Is your program tailored specifically towards team, or is that more of an individual base?
We're just following the general, like, $40 a month Proven program.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Did you get to meet T at the games?
I said hello to her, but we didn't get to talk. But she's definitely my idol.
You're like, hey, I pay you $40 a month.
Look at me.
Well, yeah. Hi, I'm over here. Yeah. No, her program is hard. Oh my gosh, it's the hardest one I've ever been on.
Yeah, I have a couple other friends that just switched over to that too, and they love it.
Yeah, it's very challenging. I'm excited to see the growth that comes out of it if I can mentally stay in it. Because some of the goal times are like incredibly fast. So
if you had some strengths and weaknesses, what would you say is your strengths and what are your weaknesses? And you mentioned some holes in your game that you guys are going to work on. What would those be?
So gymnastics is my strength for sure. Moving moderate to heavy barbells for a lot of reps is also my strength. My weakness is moving a lightweight barbell, like cycling power snatches with like 55 pounds. Oh, I hate that. That's not fun. And also machines. I'm not a fan of any of the machines. So I will be doing a lot of EMOMs and a lot of cardio work in the off season, whereas some of my other teammates need to work on strength. I think we're all in that. Everybody's always working on strength, but some more than others. And a few of us need to improve gymnastic skills. And yeah, other than that, generally strength. We need to get stronger. Like, we were basically last on the strength event at the MAC and probably last again on the back squat at the games. So strength is in there for us.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
The numbers over the years are just incredible too to see. The girls that are snatching what most men in most boxes can't touch. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Every year you watch these CrossFit Games, and I love watching the event for like the max lift. Like the max clean last year, and then this year what was it, snatch this year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so exciting to see everybody. I love how they're doing it just like one – sorry, we're not talking about team right now, but individual, one person going up at a time. And I think that's pretty awesome to see. Just to see what everybody's putting up is amazing.
That's got to be so nerve-wracking too.
The thing that is crazy, you know, like these people are so strong, like y'all are so strong, but you still move so well, which is really cool to see how the body can continue to adapt and improve with just time under tension, you know?
What I think is impressive on the team side of things is watching y'all do that worm. You'll get like spectators and be like, it's not that bad. You get 4 people lifting it. And I was like, go try it.
Yeah, have you tried this? Have you picked this thing up? Our worm at Reignited is a 6-person worm that's been converted to a 4-person worm. So the tail end of it is like rolled up and it looks kind of like a hammerhead. Oh man, that thing is brutal. But it makes it better when you go to the games and they have nice worms that are full of sand. And
there you go. The marine biologist reference there, the hammerhead.
Yeah, the hammerhead.
I'll never look at a worm the same.
That's right.
What is the total weight of the worm?
Oh, 340-ish. It's 170 and 170. Like those are the sections in a row.
All right.
And then there's spacers, so it's more than that. Because I think the spacers weigh like 6 pounds each.
So
I'm not a math major.
Sure. So at most boxes, you're not going to see a worm. So the majority of the audience, including myself, now our box does, but I've still never touched it. I've never touched a worm. Talk about like how you guys go about setting up, like who's in front, who's in the middle, who's in the back, and are different sections of the worm weighted differently?
Yeah, so the owners of our gym, Nick and Drew Mazeka, Nick's always really been into the competitive side of CrossFit, and he was on our 6-person regional team in 2017. So Nick is very big on like having all the equipment you could ever need to compete. And so when the worms were introduced, he got one, and we had that 6-person worm, and him and another teammate, Kyle, had a little bit more experience working with these. I think I forget where they did them originally, but those two kind of led the charge of like, all right, here's how we're going to stagger girl, guy. We're going to put based on the teammates and who's stronger. We're going to either hide a female or put her at the end of the worm. And so depending on the team structure, you kind of order your worm. But when we've moved to the 4-person worm, you have typically the strongest guy in the front on the 100-pound sandbag, and you have your weaker female after that, and then you have your strongest female in the back, because the front and the back kind of get some whiplash. Mm-hmm. And so those middle 2 sections are a little bit easier to control just because you have 2 people pulling on either side of you. But that worm is just a different breed. It's really hard to maneuver that thing, and so having key communication, like I was in charge of our communication at the games and in semifinals, and we have a like ready, left hand, ready, go. And so there's like a very repetitive call that I would do on every single rep for the most part, and that helps us keep in sync and keep the worm moving rather than dumping it all over the place and all over teammates' heads and that kind of stuff. So it takes a lot of coordination, and we're lucky that we have the worm and are able to practice that and keep those calls consistent.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the ultimate team movements. It's one of the most boring things as a spectator to watch, but knowing more about the worm probably will help us appreciate that event a little bit more.
I thought it was really cool that they pulled out the overhead walking lunge at the games.
Yeah.
I forgot they did
with
that.
the worm. That was wild. When I saw that announced, I'm like, how are they even going to do that? And so it was cool to watch Mayhem like completely destroy everybody and just show us how it's done. So.
Oh, man.
I feel like they're kind of the ones when you see those memes about like the Olympics, you need one average person in there. But with like them, they're so far ahead. It makes everyone else seem average. You're like, can they just go?
Yeah, I definitely think we're inherently going to see some more super teams as like people are like, all right, I'm just going to move here, live here for a while, and just be on this team to just kind of compete with them a little bit. But then again,
that's
Rich,
what it's going to take to beat them.
Yeah, Rich is, I guess, stepping away after this year. So
he's been pretty truthful about the last time he made that decision. He's like, "This is it," and he walked away.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your nutrition and recovery in your training as now a CrossFit Games athlete. Do you have a nutrition coach? Tell us about what you eat or what you don't eat. Are you strict with your nutrition? Do you eat a lot of pizza? What do you do for recovery days?
Oh, well, I'm like the worst person to answer these questions. I wish I could be better with it, but my nutrition kind of sucks. My fiance loves pizza, and so do I, and we eat a lot of it.
I love it.
Spot on with pizza. Hey, you need to get your carbs in somehow.
Yeah, we eat a lot of pizza. But when I'm training, like when I trained for the games, I tried to dial it in more. I had a hard time keeping weight on because of all the cardio that we were doing. There's a lot more running and a lot longer biking programmed on a daily basis, and so had to eat a lot of carbs training for the games. But when I'm training for a specific competition, I do try to clean up my diet, make sure I'm getting in enough protein. So trying to hit, around 140, 145 grams of protein in a day. I usually get that with like protein shakes and lots of chicken. And then definitely trying to get the carbs in and minimizing fats, but keeping enough in so that I can recover well. So like I know how the nutrition process works, but I know enough about it, but not the best at following it.
I mean, someone puts pizza in front of you. It's hard to say no.
That's true.
It's there, and if I like to bake. I really like to bake a lot of different things, and so when I bake things, I just have to eat them all.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, so what's your favorite kind of pizza? Do you have like a favorite style? Do you like thin crust? Do you like deep dish, Chicago style? Or our personal favorite, Detroit style with the square.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, I like them all. I like just very traditional, regular pizza with pepperoni, but I also like banana peppers on it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Me
and
too.
Bacon. You can always add bacon.
Well, here's the unpopular opinion question. Does pineapple go on pizza?
With ham, yeah. Hawaiian.
Yes.
For sure.
I'm going to have to completely... That. If there was one thing that was weird about me, you kind of see these like pop up on Facebook lately. Like, what's one thing that everybody loves that you hate? And for me, across the board, it's pineapple.
Just in general.
I don't like it on my pizza. I don't like eating it in the Caribbean cruise. I don't like it. I don't like it. Period.
So good though.
I don't know. I just don't. I like all melons. I like most fruit. Pretty much all fruit. I don't like kiwi either. But yeah, I don't know what it is about pineapple. It does not do it for me. But I definitely agree with the banana peppers for sure.
Yeah, those are good. But I guess recovery-wise, I'm on Team Myology, so Myology Sports Massage, and I work with Vince. He's out of Raleigh, so I go see him like once a month typically, and he does all kind of amazing body work. He does the cupping and the scraping and deep tissue massage. And man, he really keeps me moving. So he was super helpful leading up to the MAC and then leading up to the games, like keeping everything moving. He'll watch my Instagram story and be like, wow, your overhead mobility is crap right now. Like, come see me. And then I leave and I can snatch really well again. So yeah. Vince is awesome with the Myology team. I wish he'd get a Wilmington office, though. That'd be awesome.
How far do you have to drive to go do that?
2 hours. But
what?
It's totally
that's
worth
commitment.
It.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a 2-hour drive, but man, is it worth it.
Holy cow. How long are you spending with him for 2 hours? For a 2-hour drive?
He usually works on me for like 90 minutes, hour and a half.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's a full day event right there.
Yeah, that is.
It is. Yeah.
That's
usually
awesome.
I grab a teammate and take them with me, and it's a good time.
Yeah, I always say that regardless of whether you're competing or not competing, every single adult should have a massage at least once a month. Like, just do it. Just do it for yourself. You're going to feel so much better about life in general, and it's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then for athletes, I can't preach recovery days enough. I think it's really cool to see that kind of becoming more of a thing for so many athletes across the board in all sports, not just CrossFit. recovery is just as important as the days in the gym.
Especially when you're
Yeah,
putting in
for
that
sure.
kind of volume.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure. All right.
I love the Whoop for that. I never paid attention to sleep until this.
Yeah.
And man, I go to bed earlier now when I know my recovery's in the dumps.
You
So,
probably drink less alcohol too.
oh yeah, that's crazy. It really
Yeah.
affects your recovery. Like
Big
I'll
time.
be in the green and have a glass of wine and then tank into the red like instantly.
That's all it takes is like one beer or one glass of wine, like you said, and it'll ruin your day.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Well, with based on recovery, then a question for you: do you pay so much attention to it that if you hit like a certain percent recovery, you're like, no, I should probably hang low on this one, or if on a Wednesday you're like 2% recovery, you're like, no, it's a training day, I have to get it in, and whatever happens, happens.
If I was at 2% on a Wednesday, I would probably take the rest day and then go in and train on Thursday, hopefully with a better recovery. But as I'm not 21 anymore, so paying attention to
Amen.
recovery and like, all right, my body is really not feeling this Metcon today, and I'll skip it and do something else or not do a Metcon at all. So
That's cool.
sometimes you just got to listen to your body.
I think a lot of people need to hear that.
For sure.
Especially coming from a high-level athlete like yourself. Like if what you just said, I don't need to repeat it, but that was a good piece of information right there for a lot of people to
Yeah.
understand.
Well, because the
Most
younger
important
kids
to
think
feel good.
Oh, for sure. But the kids think more is more, and like, oh, if I'm sore, I'm changing, I'm getting better. Like,
Yeah.
are you just trashing your central nervous system now? For the next 3 weeks, you're not doing anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, really.
100%. Yeah, I think it's going to be cool to see how. I really think the whole neuromuscular training is going to become a big thing in CrossFit pretty soon here. I've been trying to do it a little bit more with some of the athletes around here, and just training the nervous system along with the muscular system outside of the box, I think is going to be a game changer for a lot of athletes. You are a born primitive athlete, correct?
I am, yeah.
All right, let's talk social media. So, social media is obviously something that can be fun, but also a big bummer. You can spend too much time on it, especially when you're representing a athleisure company like Born Primitive. Talk about what all you do and how much time you spend on Instagram.
Oh, probably more than I like to admit. I do have like the time notification set up for Instagram, like, hey, you've been on here for 20 minutes, get off, which is helpful. But I'm required to do like 3 posts to my feed a month and then 1 to the story a month for them. And generally, like, they give you content for one of those, and then the other ones, they leave it up to you to make the post and stuff. But I've really liked it. I think I've done this for 2.5, 3 years now, be a brand rep for them. And so it's been fun to like watch them grow as a company and get to be a part of that and, you know, represent and wear their clothing. And they have definitely come a long way with their clothing line. And it's a really comfortable apparel. And they're a great company.
So how'd you get hooked up with them in the first place?
Oh, I don't even remember. I think I honestly just saw an ad that they were accepting brand ambassadors, and I thought it would be a cool thing to do. Yeah, probably that way.
Okay, cool.
Definitely saw their booth at like Wadapalooza multiple times, and it was always like one of the biggest ones.
Uh-huh. Very cool. So as far as CrossFit from here on out, like you said, you are 30, and you know, I think in the sports world, obviously 30s can be almost like a phasing out decade as far as competing. I think CrossFit might be a little bit different, especially since it's so new and a lot of the great athletes are still in their early 30s. But I definitely think in 10 years you're going to see less people competing in their 30s. What are your goals from here on out, and what keeps you motivated to keep going as like a 30-year-old?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I'm dying. I'm 30. No, I kind of with you there though. I think that it takes a little bit of time to mature as a CrossFit athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you obviously have your anomalies, like who's the teenage kid who just did really, really well?
Mal O'Brien, Emma Carey.
Mal, like
yeah,
crazy good. But I think for the most part, you see older athletes that are doing well, like into the low 30s and before they hit the masters group. Personally, I want to go back to the games. And so team for the CrossFit Games next year would be like the immediate goal. And then maybe another year after that, if I could make it individually to probably a semifinal, that seems pretty realistic for like the second year goal. But
oh, cool.
yeah, that would be a neat way to like challenge it in a different aspect. But the girls who are doing semifinals individually and even games individually are just on a whole different level. Like Danielle made it to semifinals this year and she is just incredible. Stevie just had a baby, but Stevie's on that level too, just like next level good. And I mean, even though I'm in that same like upper echelon with these athletes, the difference between those two leagues, between team and individual, is just so great. So yeah, I think I'll stick with team for now, but I guess for me, like setting goals for that, I like to do one big goal. So games would be the big goal. And then I like to set little, or not little, but like smaller goals, like Wadapalooza. And then, you know, your benchmarks like the open and quarterfinals and semis along the way to get to that big goal.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
For me, it's just try as hard as I can. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
No, it's cool. CrossFit's one of those things that it's a life sport. I mean, you see it. It's amazing to watch. I actually really enjoyed watching all the different masters levels and age groups, even up into the 60s. I mean, just seeing some of those people compete and doing things that, you know, a lot of people in their 20s and 30s can't even do is really cool to see. Even at we have this cool local competition. Well, actually, it's kind of expanding now in the state and even up into North Carolina. Fittest of the upstate now, Fittest of South Carolina and North Carolina. They have age groups, and I think the highest age group is maybe
Legends.
No,
It's like
Outliers.
Oh, Outliers.
And I think it's like 50 and older or whatever. But in their competition this year, they had handstand walking. And just to see some of these people like 55, 60 years old on their hands and walking was just like
It's so
incredible to see. You know, and you know, in my line of work, a 55 or 60-year-old usually that comes into the clinic is a little bit more debilitated. So to see what, you know, people are capable of doing in their 50s and 60s, and, you know, as the sport progresses in their 70s and even 80s is going to be really cool to see. And,
yeah, it's wild.
And, you know, you're kind of an ambassador for that, you know, as like almost one of these original groups, because CrossFit's only like 15 years old. So,
yeah. We had a masters athlete from Reignited go this year, Lydia Beer. She was in the 65 plus age group, I believe. She destroyed it. She took second in the world. She's so incredible. But yeah, she was like leading up to the games, practicing her handstand walks. I'm like,
yeah,
wow, you're really awesome. And climbing ropes. And
that's really cool to see.
It's so
like,
wild.
I want to be like you when I grow up.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It is. It is definitely inspiring. I also enjoyed watching the teenagers. I mean,
yeah,
that's the biggest thing. Like some of these teenagers who are starting so young, like some of these teenagers who are competing now started CrossFit when they were like 6 or 7 years old. So just their ability to move, their movement is incredible with some of these lifts. I mean, it's like spotless. And just to see when they age up and start to mature a little bit, to see what kind of pressure they put on the current field is going to be pretty cool to see.
That's true.
Yeah.
And the adaptive division is neat.
Oh, yeah.
Like a girl took off her leg and climbed a rope.
Yup.
Like, whoa, that's incredible.
Yeah, that one especially. I don't know if you guys, anybody watched the interviews of some of these adaptive athletes afterwards, but if you didn't tear up during a few of those, then I don't think you're human. That's for sure. Because you look at a lot of these adapted athletes, especially the limbless ones, it's recent. It's not like they were born that way, you know? And how many athletes in the elite individual group, if they lost an arm, would have the mentality to keep going? You know, they're like, oh, this is it. Like, I'm done, you know?
keep going and overcome all like the hardship and troubles that come with that whole process.
Oh yeah, for sure. And again, it's in the word adaptive. It's amazing how the human body can adapt when something goes awry, for sure. All right, let's kind of move outside of CrossFit. Let's talk about you just got engaged, right?
Yeah.
All right, so how did you? What's your fiance's name?
Matt.
All right, how did you and Matt meet?
So we met at the gym, kind of no surprise there. He was the new guy in town. He was getting out of the Army. And I think he was doing the workout Chad, the 1,000 step-ups for time. And I was like, oh, new guy in the gym. And so he was stepping up on a box for like an hour. And so I decided that I would do my handstand push-ups right in front of him that day. I'm like, hey, look at me. So
Girls are so
we
sneaky
started
that way.
so we started talking after that, and I think it was right around the time of the open. So we kind of hung out and bonded over the open workouts, and yeah, the rest is history.
That's cool. So how long have you guys been dating?
A little over 2 years.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And how did he propose to you?
Oh man. So his parents live on the water here in Wilmington, and I thought I was going to an oyster roast / business meeting. And his dad's a pretty intense guy, and so I get to their house, and his dad sits me down and starts talking through this list of all these important business people I'm going to have to carry on conversations with, and I'm like trying to make mental notes of what's going on and who's who. And he's like, all right, now go out on the dock and get ready to talk to these people. And it was freezing. It was like January 16th, and it was windy. And so we're standing on the dock, and one of their dogs comes sprinting down the dock to Matt and brought out a ring. And so Matt got down on one knee, and surprise, there's no oyster roast, and thank God there was no business meeting.
Oh,
so,
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was good, but they had me going. I really thought I was going to have to talk to a bunch of important people.
That's good.
So,
It was well thought out. That means he's a good dude. He's a good dude.
It was. He had like 3 other plans, but like my brother got engaged, a couple of our friends got engaged, his brother got engaged. He's like, everybody keeps taking my ideas. But
yeah, it's the season, man. You're in that season. I think there was I think from the time of being 21 through possibly 32 maybe, I don't think there was a summer that went by that I wasn't in a wedding.
Yeah,
it's just
a lot.
everybody keeps...
I just recently started.
Really? Well, yeah, your generation's a little behind.
We're stuck. Yeah.
No, it's good. I didn't get married till I was like 28, so that's awesome. So Matt, what where did he start? What military was he in?
He's an Army Ranger.
Okay,
so,
perfect. And he's still active?
Oh, sorry, no, he was retired now.
Oh.
So he got out in May of 2020, maybe 2019.
Awesome.
So he currently does like some contracting work right now. But
very cool. And what I meant to say was what military branch. So that don't sound completely dumb, but thank him for his service for us.
Yeah.
That's great. So when's the big day? When are you guys getting hitched?
October 2nd. So it's like 16 days away.
Oh wow.
Woo, we're in crunch time here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and that's the
exciting.
reason why you cannot, because you guys are, what are you going on your honeymoon right after that?
Yeah, we're going to Asheville for a couple of days for like a mini honeymoon.
Fantastic. So you're going to miss the Crash Crucible.
I'm so bummed about that. I wish he would have gone later in October, but that's okay.
We should.
I'm seeing like the roster of all these amazing athletes coming to Crash, and I have serious FOMO.
No, we wish you were coming. That would have been awesome. But I was texting JR today, and I was like, well, is she coming? Because I wanted to know if you were or weren't. And he said no, and he told me why. And I was like, well, I guess if there was a reason to not come, that would probably be the best one.
That's a good one, yeah. JR's the man. I wish I could go, but maybe next year.
Oh, for sure next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the one in the spring, whichever one he does then.
Yeah, I was actually going through the list of past guests and co-hosts.
So many
who are going to be participating this year, and there was like upwards of 16 people who have been on this show that are going to be competing at Crash Crucible this
That's
year.
awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
You guys have hit all the big names.
We're getting there. We're just happy that you guys take the time to spend with us.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff do you and Matt like to do outside of CrossFit?
Oh, really anything outdoors. I really like water sports. I like wakeboarding, going to the beach. Have done some surfing in the past, not so much now. I like to scuba dive. And then Matt's more of like the mountain guy, so he likes to go hiking and trekking through the woods and that kind of stuff.
That's cool.
So outdoorsy people.
Has he taken you hunting yet?
Not yet.
Oh,
But he likes to shoot.
Yeah.
I am definitely a novice, so I need to get more comfortable in that.
I hear you. You guys should do, what are those events called where it's basically shooting and obstacles and CrossFit at the same time?
The tactical games.
Yeah, you guys need to do that together. That'd be cool.
God, he would destroy people in that. He'd be really good at it.
Army Ranger, I'd say.
Yeah,
so.
I would say,
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
hope so.
You're
That's
like, you got this, honey. You're good.
Yeah, you go do it. I'll be the support team for once.
There
He's
you
really good at being the support guy. So at the games, he was our coach and like made sure we had everything we needed, all the supplies, knew where we were going. He gave motivational speeches. So he's a good guy to have around. He's always prepared.
That's awesome. He sounds like a good dude.
He is.
All right. You want to get into some rapid fire questions?
Go ahead.
All right, so rapid fire questions. If you've listened to the podcast before, it's just a time where me and Zach think of random questions off the top of our head. We ask them, and you fire them back as quickly as you can.
Cool.
All right. What is your favorite CrossFit movement? Could be anything.
Ring muscle up.
Cool.
What is one workout that you have stuck in your brain from the pain that it caused you?
The snatch and bike workout from the games. Oh, God. It was only like 4 minutes, but man, that hurt.
Awesome. Are you a cake or pie kind of girl?
Cake all day long.
Ooh, that made me think.
Yeah.
Any type of cake.
You already said pizza, so it's
Yeah.
like, what's your guilty pleasure food? But yeah.
Well, that's still a good question. Is maybe pizza's not her cheat meal? What would be your cheat meal?
Pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's so many
Pizza.
options.
There
Pizza
are.
or Mexican. Yeah, either one of those. Really good with that.
There are so many people that are on the Mexican train. My wife's one of them. I think she could eat Mexican all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not. Like, I don't know. I could eat pizza every day for the rest of my life. I've never been like, I really want Mexican tonight.
Ooh.
Which is
Man.
probably another weird thing about me, right?
That's
not
probably the same
normal.
reason why you don't like Hawaiian pizzas, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm just an oddball.
Weird.
My taste
Weird.
buds have not developed, I guess, appropriately.
But I think with like pizza, there's just so many variations of it. You can
Sure.
always have something different.
Dude, I'd rather have anchovies on my pizza than pineapple. All right, moving on. If you tried to model yourself off any CrossFit athlete or somebody that you aspire to be or look up to, who would it be?
Tia. 100%. Who wouldn't want to be her?
Yeah,
She's so good at everything.
and she seems like just as much as a good person too. I mean, she seems
Yes,
super friendly.
agreed.
Very cool.
Hmm. If you could get up and go one place in the world right now, where are you going?
Ooh, good question. I think I'd want to go to Italy. I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah.
Have you been to Europe before?
I've been to London, but we pretty much stayed in London. It was like a study abroad thing with Wingate.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I guess this is kind of a similar question. I was going to say, how about this? If you could train, you met a lot of teams at the CrossFit Games. If you could go and train, your team could train with another team for the next 6 months other than Mayhem, which team would you want to, which team do you feel like you connected with? Did you make any friends?
Yeah, we made a lot of friends, but I think that Australian team was cool. What was their gym's name? They're the ones that are like still trying to travel home because of all the like travel restrictions.
Oh, wow. I didn't
But
even
they
know about
hung out
that.
in like the top 5 like all weekend.
Yeah.
And they were really nice people and had
That's-
cool accents too.
Well, there you go. You can't beat that.
Yeah.
Say, what is your favorite memory of the games? It could have been something crazy happened, an interaction. Just what was your favorite moment?
I think winning our heat on the rope climb and sled drag workout. That was like a really cool moment. We all ran across the finish line and like looked around and we were the first ones done. And that was really rewarding.
That's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
You're going individual. You are competing for the top spot, and you have 2 other competitors that you're going against for that top spot, the podium. It could be anybody. It doesn't have to be a CrossFit athlete currently. It could be somebody from the past, present. It could be your mom, your best friend. Who are the 2 people that you'd like to compete against for that top spot?
Ooh. Probably my girls, Stevie and Carrie.
Yeah.
If the 3 of us were making the podium on that level, that would be so cool.
That would be cool. Who would that be for you, Zach?
To compete against?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely Ryan from 8th Day.
Yeah.
And Michael.
I don't know if I know Michael. Do I know Michael? What's his last name?
Pass.
I don't know if I know him. I definitely know Ryan.
Just because.
He's a legend in Grand Rapids.
Just with the history we have with them and being really good friends, I would love to be able to go and throw down like good old times. It's been a while.
That's cool. All right. Let's wrap it up here. Steph, where can people follow you on social media?
Mainly on Instagram, so SL Simmons 3.
SL Simmons 3. Cool. Anything else you want to say to the audience before we let you go?
Well, just thanks for having me on here. I know we've been planning this for a while, and this has been such a fun experience.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I appreciate it.
I'm glad you took the time out of your Thursday night to spend with us, and yeah, definitely was fun getting to know you more on this personal level. It's so funny, like when we have these people on as guests, I feel like we leave like really good friends because it's just kind of like a weird, intimate relation.
Especially the room we're in.
Exactly. And Zach, thank you so much for filling in.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got some awesome guests lined up over the next several weeks, so we're really excited to drop some more episodes for everybody. But Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. And y'all heard it here on the Apogee Fitness Podcast.